Ian is clueless. Nobody knows. He tweeted this 30 seconds before the news was announced. It would be looking a lot better with Daniel Jones because CJ Stroud, 50% he's going to pan out, 50% he's going to be a total bust.
Yeah, he could be a total bust.
And the rookie quarterbacks as a whole in the NFL coming in there, not everyone can be as good as DTR, are you guys ready for the deepest, darkest sleeper that nobody has heard of ever before, and then a second-year player who I think is going to win you fantasy football leagues this year? You ready?
I'm so ready.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Oh, hello and welcome to a brand new episode of What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and I'm sitting here as always with some brilliant football minds based out of the Dallas area. We are recording live here in South Dallas. My girlfriend said we're not allowed to use the street name that we live on anymore. I usually give a shout out to the street that I live on, but she's afraid I will actually get famous for this show one day, and we will have people stalk us. So I guess she believes in me, so that's the good news. And I am here with always Caleb B. Davis, basically my co-host at this point. Caleb, I was thinking maybe we get you on the laptop one day. What do you think about that?
I'm down.
Yeah, I think laptop duties might go to Caleb very, very soon. Not going to happen today. And we have a very new face on the show, Jacob Marshall. How's it going, buddy?
It's great. I'm excited to be here. This is gonna be fun.
Yes, Jacob is a known college analyst in town, which is why we mostly hate him. But he also does like real NFL football. And he is in our Dynasty Startup SuperFlex point per first down, 6 passing point touchdown league. Jacob, how do you think your team is going so far?
I'm all right with it. I don't love it. I'm not in love with anything. I think we were texting back and forth. I was like, I feel like nothing really fell to me that I really wanted. So I was kind of having to settle for a lot. Just there's not a lot left of this position, so I guess I need to take something.
Yeah. So to be fair to you were drafted on the 12th spot, which is a notoriously tough spot to pick out of. To be fair to me, I was drafting out of the 10th spot, and my draft is going extremely well. You went with Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Kind of best quarterback available. Yeah. You basically had him, Tua, Anthony Richardson, and Deshaun Watson to choose from there, and I think you chose the best guy, young guy who's going to be a Jag for forever, so I don't blame you there. Superflex League taking your quarterback. I also don't super blame you for your second pick. Travis Kelce, not a bad pick in Superflex Dynasty. Tight ends are a little bit more valuable, in my opinion, in Dynasty just because it is so hard to draft rookie tight ends. Yeah. So taking a sure thing in Travis Kelce, he's going to be a dominant tight end in the league for the next 3 to 4 years, I would say at least. What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, I was actually going to say it's a bold decision, and I don't criticize it. I get why. You're taking top of tier position, really, and his point, too. I made sure to try to beef up at tight end myself after especially I voided myself of good quarterbacks.
Yep. And I went tight end pretty early, too. I took Mark Andrews at 310.
Yeah, you guys were the first 2 on the boards with tight ends.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that, especially after I saw Kyle Pitts get taken around the corner and I got Deshaun Watson. So here's the one other thing I'd like to mention. So we're doing a slow draft, so you also kind of definitely got screwed in this aspect as well. Granted, you should have maybe anticipated this coming. Your running back, so you got Najee Harris, 312, which I don't love, and we'll talk about it more why in a second. We also had Ramondre Stevenson here at 4.1. We now know that Ezekiel Elliott will be over there in New England, taking probably every single goal line snap away from Ramondre Stevenson. took a linebacker way too early right here, but I love the rest of those picks. James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals, another fine pick. I think he'll be fine there. Samaje Perine. Now that's another unlucky piece of news. Javonte Williams looking 100% in practice. Hasn't seen him in training camp or hasn't seen them in preseason yet. But
we'll see.
You're kind of hoping on Samaje to take over the bell cow role there. It does not look like that's going to end up the same way. And same thing, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore Ravens, looking like he's healthy back in camp and having a good time. And you got Leonard Fournette, who's not going to sign with the team until like week 6 of the NFL season. So
whatever.
Yeah, but the one thing I really wanted to make fun of you for is I think the worst pick and the best pick of all time, a late round 27, 12, 28, 1 turn. You took Taylor Heineke, who is the number 3 quarterback for a shitty passing offense in Atlanta.
See, I thought he was the backup.
Well,
Who's the second string?
I guess we'll see over there the Atlanta Falcons. But why would you want to back up to a guy who's already going to be notoriously, ineffective and probably will still start the season for the whole season over there in Atlanta?
How many quarterbacks had I taken at this point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Superflex League, so you got Trevor Lawrence, you got CJ Stroud. So that's another big issue with taking a rookie quarterback there at 5'12". You kind of had to do it.
Yeah.
But, honestly, you definitely should have taken my Deshaun Watson right there at 4'12" instead of Ramondre.
I don't trust Deshaun, so it's okay. I should have taken somebody I trust more.
Probably Daniel Jones. You had him. You do have Matt Stafford, which I love that Matt Stafford pick. Honestly, I was like, damn it, somebody's going to get Matt Stafford, and it almost made me want to take him. Feels like a 1-year rental, but in your case, Trevor Lawrence and Matt Stafford starting, you got to feel good about that, getting Matt Stafford at the 17th round. So I really do love that pick. You got Bailey Zappi, which didn't make any sense, at 23.12. And then you went with Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, so the same thought process for Heineke and Zappi of, maybe they get to play a few games this year. Mac Jones maybe getting benched this year. He got benched last year, so
yeah, I guess I did.
Thought process behind both of them of it's late. There's not a lot of real talent on the board that's going to add a lot of value to my team. So let's take a couple flyers and see what happens.
Yeah, I just hate that you did that. I just don't like it whatsoever. Guys you still had on the board, not a lot of great skill positions, like a lot of high upside guys, but you also passed on Tyler Huntley, which I would think has a higher ceiling than Taylor Heineke. He went 2 full rounds later. Malik Cunningham, you probably didn't even know existed at the time.
Very likely
who I
not.
took a few picks afterwards. So yeah, I just think just wanted to make fun of you as you join my podcast. But we do have a fun episode stacked up for y'all today. We are going to go over my top 5 rookie performances in week 2 of the preseason. We are also going to go over a mock draft for part 2 of this episode, which we'll probably edit and post separately the day after this one gets posted. And stick around because I have a very special deep dark sleeper that no one is talking about, that no one has even heard of, a young wide receiver that you need on your 36-man Dynasty SuperFlex roster, or even regular flex roster. So number 1 on the list of things to do. We do have to also cover some brand new breaking news. Dalvin Cook got signed to a massive contract, an $8.6 million contract with a sturdy financial base to that contract, unlike Zeke's contract. Zeke also kind of went back-to-back within what felt like a couple hours apart. Zeke going to the Patriots for $3 million, and Dalvin Cook going for almost 3x that to the Jets. Not a surprise to us. We talked about it on the very first time we had this podcast. Second time you came in, you said, "Yeah, Jamie, you're right. He's definitely going to the Jets." We always have to remember there's always going to be turmoil when we got massive contracts being negotiated like this, and when tweets get posted and deleted and teams get posted and deleted off of Instagrams, off the player side, that's always a good sign that they're going to sign with the Jets. When the team like they did with Dalvin Cook, knock them off of their social media page, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
That means ownership is saying, hey, get this guy off our social media. He's not going to be on the team next year, which is a great indication. This is how you got to kind of read the tea leaves. And, I'll read the tea leaves for you, which is why you should tune in. But there are a lot of things that we can glean from these situations. And I put out a tweet to the masses, a poll that I was very surprised by probably just a recency bias poll, honestly, the results of it. I said, would you rather, so forget all of like the length of the contract, the base salary, the guaranteed money, the incentives, all of that. Would you rather have Ezekiel Elliott for $3 million, David Montgomery for 4.5, or Dalvin Cook for 8.6? Mr. Caleb, I'll let you go first. You have a close relationship with the winner of the Twitter poll. What do you think? Who would you take for which money?
Me personally, and honestly, I'm upset. I've not been on Twitter as much as I have felt like I need to be.
Shame
usually.
on you.
Shame on me. I would take Zeke for $3 million.
Did you see how fat he was, though, when he was running into the first Patriots practice?
Do you remember LeGarrette Blount? Do you remember Marshawn Lynch? I love a fat boy who can run. And, honestly,
was it
the
Brandon
fact...
Jacobs, too?
Yeah, dude, Bilal Powell. I can talk with you about, dude, Ray Rice. You were a fat, muscular man, as tall as you weren't. So I would take Zeke for that money just because, first of all, I feel like coming from Dallas, where you got let go of your contract, but you're still a, more than capable running back, he's going to be running angry. You don't want a fat dude running angry at you.
You think he's revenge body right now? Because he looks like the opposite of that. He looks like he is in a relationship, still getting checks from his ex, which is exactly what he is doing, and just, hanging out on Dak Prescott's couch.
Just pounding beers.
Yeah.
Pounding beers, which, hey, if you want to pound beers, we support you. Not necessarily if you're a professional athlete.
I know where their houses are in Frisco, actually.
Yeah, we do too. Everyone knows we live in Dallas. We know exactly where everyone. My friend got caught looking at Dak Prescott's house without knowing it. He was looking at, one of my patients was looking at stone. I mean, he went to like a stone shop because he's building a house. And he's like, oh, go over here. There's stone of the one that you're interested in. So he goes over, he's taking pictures of the house or whatever in this neighborhood up north Dallas area, and somebody comes up in like a Suburban, and the driver's side or the passenger side window rolls down, like, hey, what are you guys doing here? He's like, oh, we're just looking at houses. Like, you guys better get out of here. People cause trouble here all the time. He pulls away. My buddy turns to his wife's in the car next to her. He goes, who was that? He looks familiar. It's like, that was Dak Prescott, idiot. He got yelled at by Dak Prescott in town. Anyways, Jacob, who would you take? Zeke, Dalvin, or David Montgomery for each money?
Honestly, I'm taking Zeke too.
Really?
I love a fat guy in the red zone. That's all. That's literally what he's getting paid to do, is not get tackled at the 1 yard line. Like, that's his job. And he's really good at it. So I would love to have him for $3 million in the red zone.
Okay, so y'all are just going to go with the cheap option, red zone option, and just get a guy that is, pretty decent in the NFL, and you're going to go spend that $6 million elsewhere on your defensive line or whatever, right? Yeah. Caleb, I'm surprised that you didn't go with rival David Montgomery for 4.5. I think that is honestly the best value. Granted, it is a longer-term contract. I think it's a 3-year deal with David Montgomery. I think one of the biggest contracts going forward is just like the way the running back market is headed. A guy that can break a lot of tackles. He can catch balls out of the backfield. Only $1.5 million more than Ezekiel Elliott, and a guy who I think is a couple years, 1 year younger, a year and a half younger than Zeke, and a guy who I still think has a lot left in the tank in David Montgomery. I would put Zeke at number last for me. I would rank it David Montgomery for 4.5, Dalvin Cook for 8.6. I think Dalvin Cook is a far superior or marginally superior athlete, running back. But for that difference in money, maybe I'm thinking I just go with David Montgomery, which is like basically the next best thing, maybe 1 or 2 spots in terms of running back talents behind Dalvin Cook in the NFL.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would take David Montgomery number 1. and then Zeke last, because I just don't think he adds much value to your team as a goal line running back when you do already have Ramondre Stevenson there.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who we have been expecting to kind of carry the load there going forward. Maybe not such a good thought in your tummy going forward.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on that?
I will say I think that makes less sense for New England of all people to be like the team investing into Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, personally, I think that was a really great poll because like that tier for their monetary value matched equivalently to what their production actually would be. I always hedge against injury though. Like I can't help but do that. It's just like if I've got one player on my team that I've got money invested in, like if it's $3 million on Zeke and he goes down, like I feel a little bit better about that personally. That's my durability. I think David Montgomery is more durable than Ezekiel Elliott, and I think Dalvin Cook should stay more durable than David Montgomery as well.
Okay.
So factoring that into it, I think they're definitely worth each of their tier investment, like monetarily.
Yeah, I don't have. I would be most injury concerned about Dalvin Cook coming off of his surgery. But I don't know. I would say they're all kind of on the same tier in terms of injury risk for me, and for that reason, I'm kind of leaning towards. Yeah,
I guess, and specifically in the position, I know Dalvin Cook, his surgery was had early enough on in the off season, even still when he was with Minnesota, actually before he even got released, and I'm hoping he's recovered. He should be like healthier than he's ever been in an NFL season.
Word. So I was pounding the drum that Dalvin Cook was going to the Jets. Very early on, I was kind of reading the tea leaves and seeing what people were saying, and I posted this. This was 8/11, so about 9 days ago from when we're recording here on Sunday evening. Friendly reminder, there's a 100% chance that Dalvin Cook will be a Jet, and who I believe will be the number one back there ahead of Breece Hall. That is to be determined, but I did get a lot of feedback on this post, so y'all can see August 14th. Here's a guy. So this post all of a sudden got like 20 more likes out of nowhere, like 5 minutes before this news was announced. It was like really weird. Like Dalvin Cook started trending or whatever, and this post kind of got boosted up. New York guy 50. I'm wondering how he's feeling today because he said, friendly reminder that we do not need him. I guess he's right. They don't necessarily need him, but I don't think he really understands what value he's going to bring to the team. And, you don't really know exactly what you're going to get out of Breece Hall coming off that ACL. We've seen guys really do extremely well. He looks good in practice. He did come up off the pup like 2 days after this contract was announced. But I do think I think he will be a massive help to the team. And you know why I think he will be? Because Aaron Rodgers is the reason he's there. So Aaron Rodgers is going to give him the ball a lot, and I think that's a good choice. I think he is a little bit better than Breece Hall. You want to say something about that, Mr. Jacob?
Oh, no, I think the one great thing about having him is that it means that they don't have to, necessarily rush Breece back. I mean, you have a young running back. You don't want to burn him out early.
So are you of the opinion that Breece will take over the leading role when he starts to kind of come back and Dalvin Cook maybe fades? 27-year-old Dalvin Cook fades towards the end of the season?
I think by the end of the year you'll see Breece getting more carries more than likely, but I think either way it's going to be a backfield by committee.
Okay, more carries than Dalvin or more carries in general? Because I agree with you, Breece Hall will take a larger load as the season progresses, but I believe that Dalvin Cook will stay the number one running back for New York.
Okay, so are we saying on a per game basis?
Per game basis, yeah.
Overall the whole year.
So week 17, fantasy football championships, who's getting the most touches for the New York football Jets?
I think it will be Breece.
You think it'll be Breece?
I think it will be.
Yeah, then that's really the question. I think fantasy managers are going to have to ask themselves, I guess you can avoid the situation altogether, but in my opinion, I say you stake your claim on, I think Breece Hall will be the number one back there, or I think Dalvin Cook will be the number one back there. Of course, you're taking on a lot less risk taking the Dalvin Cook side because he's much cheaper still. Even after the trade was announced, he's still much cheaper in fantasy football drafts than Breece Hall. But if you think Breece Hall is going to take over that starting role, I say you take a few shots at him if he does fall back in the drafts a little bit with the Dalvin Cook signing news. This guy's
hilarious.
Oh, I just put this tweet out. Let me go check the replies. And this guy, sure enough, like, no, actually, it was this guy. It was August 14th. LMAO, he's not going there, though. Literally 30 seconds before the news was announced. Tough guy for Michael Peace on Twitter. Not that anybody even noticed his mistake, but just wanted to shout him out and his stupidity. Okay. Now we're getting into the good stuff. My top 5 rookie performances. Spoiler alert, there's like 9 players in this list, and I think 3 of them aren't rookie performers, but hey, clickbait.
Exactly.
They're watching for a reason, and here we are. Number 1, he is a rookie. He plays in the Carolina Panthers. Early round draft pick, monster of a man, did not lead his team in receptions ever. Jonathan Mingo, one of the rare large guys on this year on any football team that got drafted as a rookie. He's a big old dude, and look at him just absorb that free shot from the safety coming down from 20 yards away, full head of steam, head down, and just bounces off of Jonathan Mingo. This is one of those things like, hey, this is all I need to see. I don't need to see a big stat line out of this guy. I've seen enough in his college film that shows me he's a special talent. And when I don't care like how good or bad this safety was that he just basically obliterated.
Yeah.
That's all I need to see. He's an NFL player. And
that guy just lost his roster spot, by the way.
Well, when you're wearing number 27 from the safety position, that's not a good sign for the future of your career.
True.
But, I think another great dynasty target. I don't think a redraft target for this year unless you get him super late, like your last pick in a deeper draft. Just because he is going to have a rookie quarterback and a struggling offense his whole first season, I think he's a guy you put the feelers out on week 5, week 6. If he keeps on flashing on film and doesn't necessarily put the numbers up that you're expecting out of a guy like Jonathan Mingo, go ahead and, throw somebody some fab in a 3rd round dynasty rookie draft pick for next year or whatever, and go ahead and get yourself an excellent talent like Jonathan Mingo, and based on your, you can maybe even hide him in your taxi squad or whatever for a couple of years. Jonathan Mingo, my first rookie I am going to talk about today. Any more thoughts on Jonathan Mingo?
I thought he did a good job too, just after the catch yards, or yards after contact, even with letting Hayden Hurst pop up in there and still get him an extra few yards. I was impressed by that.
Patient runner, showed good vision as well with that run, as well as just ultra athleticism. Speaking of ultra athleticism, let's talk about this guy, Bijan Robinson, a guy who I have ranked number 4 in my rankings, and that is for a 3 wide receiver best ball draft. I think he's my number 2 running back, and this run alone, again, this is all I need to see out of Bijan. He looks absolutely incredible. I think and honestly did not get a great block, had a couple of guys driving through the middle of that offensive line that could have 2 or 3 guys that got deep into the backfield that he just turned into a first down 15-yard run with basically his only touch of the game.
I'm just glad we don't have to, celebrate that the Atlanta Falcons were moving yards with Cordero Patterson. Like, that was the only way they did that last year.
Exactly. That's my main thought process with Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson. Just guys that you saw the stat sheet. I had Cordero Patterson 2 years ago when he absolutely just crushed. And Jacob, you tell me if you were the same way. When I watched him play, I'm like, this is so unsustainable. Yeah. There's no way he could keep doing this, but I will ride him to a fantasy football championship, Cordero Patterson, if I have to. And Tyler Algier, kind of more of the same, didn't really make you feel super excited about the way he moves as an athlete. Just seems like a guy who's in a great running offense who just took the ball and ran north and south. and just racked up a bunch of yards and some touchdowns. And I think Bijan is a great draft pick because they're going to be able to utilize him so incredibly well. A guy I don't feel bad about drafting super early, even ahead of Austin Eckler. I love Austin Eckler, but I just think Bijan has the possibility to be running back 1. I think he will be running back 2. That's what I'm projecting him behind Christian McCaffrey, and that's why I think getting him at number 4 for me, honestly, ahead of Jamar Chase, right behind Cooper Kupp is where I'm taking Bijan right now. And I, after seeing this run, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I take him. I'm glad I took him so many times, first round in dynasty football drafts. And
he's unbelievable.
He's incredible. Just like Jahmyr Gibbs, a guy who's looked great. I haven't featured him on one of these episodes yet, but also I think just those two kind of outshine each other in a way. I feel like in this draft they are just so good and outshine guys like Tank Bigsby. And let me tell you, so TCU fan, how you feeling about freaking Kendre Miller? I announced,
great.
yeah,
Not great.
I announced his death. I announced his funeral last podcast. After
I don't feel great.
He did sprain his knee. He is back in practice, which is a good sign.
Sorry, I don't mean to speak over.
Go ahead.
No, he got hurt in college all the time. I mean, we played the whole national championship game without him because against Michigan, he was playing great, gets hurt, and that happened throughout the entire year. It was like he was playing 80% the whole year, and he was still phenomenal when he was healthy, but that was my one concern about him.
What's even more concerning is when he was healthy theoretically in that game, he just wasn't making, he averaged 1.2 yards per carry with a good sample size, like 7 or 8 carries. Just did not leave you feeling with warm fuzzy feels. Definitely ran into some bad blocks. But yeah, Tank Bigsby, that's why you take late round shots on these guys, especially in dynasty drafts. It's like I took Kendre Miller, and right after him I took Tank Bigsby, and then, well, I don't want to spoil my later on in the list, I took 2 more running backs back to back who are young and I think can have that super duper high ceiling if things fall their way, and you got to be honest with yourself and be like, hey, there's a 50% chance Kendre Miller or Tank Bigsby isn't going to pan out, but if you take both of them, you got a pretty good chance that one of them is.
Yeah.
And I'm not, obviously I'm joking. I don't think Kendre Miller's career is over. It's just that first time seeing him in an NFL uniform did not leave you with warm, fuzzy feelings in your tummy.
Dude, in the NFL, it's a very cutthroat business. It's very rare a team will sit and wait for you to recover. Mm-hmm. And especially at that position, it's just increasingly difficult. And of course, it doesn't entail, you're done, but it's so increasingly more difficult.
You got to be ready for your opportunity, and that's why Kendre Miller, in my opinion, was before week 1 of the preseason was more exciting than Tank Bigsby and, for example, Roshan Johnson, who now I'm almost more excited about Roshan than I am Tank Bigsby. For Roshan running back
for the Chicago
behind
Bears.
Bijan Robinson.
Roshan Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Bears?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Bears.
I'm just making sure I didn't get messed up.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope. You're on the same track with me. Yeah, played behind Bijan Robinson for Texas University.
That's right.
Looked incredible when he did get touches, and it just felt like, I'm always like a big history guy too, especially with fantasy football, especially recent history. When we see backfields like this in college, I was a college wrestler. I was a college athlete, and it is a little bit of a cliche, like what they're talking about with the Jets right now with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson going against each other every single day in practice is like, iron sharpens iron, like this is how you really train, but also that's real.
Yeah.
That is a real thing. When you have the best running back that we've seen probably since Saquon Barkley, I would say he was probably a little bit better than Jonathan Taylor was in college. That type of guy that you are playing behind in a world where everyone just transfers. And still the Bears spent, I think, a 4th or 5th round draft pick on Roshan, so they believe in him too. He's a guy I could see really working himself into the lineup as the year goes on. But anyways, moving on to our our Thursday night football game, we saw an absolute battle between Dawnad Jones and Nolan Smith, both rookies, right tackle. Dawnad playing in his natural right tackle position. The Browns are hoping that maybe he can transfer over to left tackle so Conklin can still play the right side and we can get Jed the hell up out of the left tackle position. Just a monster of a man, 375. I think he's like 6'8", number 74 here. We're watching him on the screen. Going up against the smallest D tackle or D end in the draft, Nolan Smith, but he did run a 4.3. And just watching these guys battle back and forth for the whole first quarter. Of course, then we did see Nolan Smith go out with a shoulder injury after he made a very, very impressive tackle on a play here. He's running a stunt. Oh no, he's not. He just ran a stunt towards the inside and then he beat him out around the outside. Nolan Smith, the only thing that's going to keep him after watching him, look the way he does, like a mini Myles Garrett, kind of like a faster Myles Garrett, the way he can bend. Obviously not as powerful as Myles, but I think a guy who can kind of produce like that with this Philadelphia offense or Philadelphia defensive line going forward. Just a guy who looks super special, ran down other guys who ran 4.3s from the wide receiver position. What do you guys think about these two prospects from the Cleveland Browns and the Eagles? Philadelphia Eagles, Caleb?
I mean, I have some stake in Nolan Smith in this dynasty draft, I won't lie. So that injury was something I was concerned about. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see his size out there. He looks like a 1.5x Deuce Vaughn on the defensive side of the ball.
He does.
So
Deuce Vaughn, a guy that is not going to make the list for today. He did have an incredible game again. Just a guy, if you want to see us talk about Deuce Vaughn, we already covered him. We already kind of called what we saw last week. Pretty much everybody that we talked about who ended up playing in week 2 of the preseason absolutely balled out again, which was, pretty good for us to see. But yeah, you took Nolan Smith there in the 19 spot. Look at that. And then got Tank Dell, a guy that we talked about last week. He got held out this week in the game, which just tells me that Houston's like, yep. We've seen all we need to see out of Tank Dell. We know he's probably going to be our number 1 wide receiver this season. So we're going to put him in bubble wrap and just get him to the regular season. We are missing one slide here, so let me grab this. Rashee Rice, SMU Mustang, played right down the road from us. Had a couple of massive catches. A guy that we are kind of hoping will be the number 2 target behind Travis Kelce in Kansas City. And I say we, meaning people who have stake in him in fantasy football. Another guy who you can get probably last round of your 14-round redraft leagues. A bit of a shot in the dark. Him, Justin Ross, and just a big muddy group of above average wide receivers for Kansas City, all playing behind Travis Kelce. Another reason why your Travis Kelce pick was a brilliant pick, because there's really no one to challenge him.
Yeah.
But we're kind of hoping that Rashee Rice does, and what we saw this week in the preseason against the Cardinals, who the second stringers for the Cardinals would not play for. Look at how wide. Although that is Justin Simmons. So
they all just finished their XFL contracts.
So they are playing against the ones right here. It looks like, or at least a pretty good portion of the ones the Cardinals are. But even so, look, great separation, good speed, good run after the catch. Not seeing a bunch, but Rashee Rice did enough in that game, put up a big enough stat sheet to make me say, hey, you're on my top 5 rookies in week 2. Congratulations, Rashee Rice. Have yourself a day. Just like my buddy Romeo Doubs did. This guy, number 2, I saw some kind of Twitter hate on him that they were like, why is Romeo Doubs getting so much love? He looked great last year for the whole season, and I think him and Mike Williams and all the other receivers in Tampa Bay are in a similar boat where they got a downgrade at quarterback, but their quarterback will play better this year than they did last year. I think Tom Brady was definitely done, totally washed last year, and I think we kind of saw that along with the problems he had with that offensive line. And Aaron Rodgers played with a broken thumb in his throwing hand last year, and Romeo Doubs was a rookie last year, had to kind of earn his way into a starting role with Allen Lazard still on the team in Green Bay, with a quarterback that is notorious for not like throwing to rookies and had an incredibly inaccurate season. Romeo Doubs also had injuries, so if he stays healthy, if Christian Watson stays healthy, I'm a big believer, obviously, in Jordan Love in Green Bay. And just what we've seen last week from Romeo and this week from Romeo just makes me super excited for where you can draft him in dynasty leagues and in redraft leagues. Romeo Doubs will be number 2 wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, but I don't see why Jordan Love can't have 2 top 20 wide receivers. And if you're getting Romeo Doubs on your team, you're not paying a top 20 price tag for him. So Romeo Doubs, shout out to him. Any thoughts on this play or Romeo Doubs' play in particular last year or this year? Jacob?
I just don't have a lot of faith in Green Bay's offense this year.
Okay, tell me about it.
I don't trust Jordan Love yet.
That's the big thing, right?
I don't have faith in that. I feel like they may end up being a run-heavy offense all year.
That might happen.
And so I stayed far away from Green Bay receivers this year.
Okay. Why don't you have faith in Jordan Love?
Just from the little times that he's gotten in the regular season.
In the regular season, he's not produced well fantasy-wise, for sure.
Yeah, and he's shown some moments, but I haven't seen it yet. That's really the big thing.
So you want to see it. And that's maybe a philosophy difference that you have versus me, is I am willing, especially with that later round pick with a guy like Romeo, I can get him super duper late in dynasty drafts, and if Jordan Love does pan out, great. I got a great asset on my team, young asset on my team in Romeo Doubs, who is tied to hopefully Jordan Love going forward. And if it doesn't pan out, like, I'm still a believer in his talent. Maybe I got him going forward, and honestly, like, if it doesn't work out, you know, guys that you're drafting in that range of the draft aren't going to work out anyway. So he is like a big, high ceiling guy for me.
No, that's fair.
For where you're getting him in drafts. So that's probably like a philosophy issue between you and I. You want to see it on the field, which I get.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of the same way with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Except I have seen him on the field, and the last 5 games we've seen him on the field, he's played extremely mediocre.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm super concerned about him. And I guess you could probably say a little bit of the same of Jordan Love, although that sample size is a little bit smaller, and where he was kind of inserted in the lineup was a little bit different situation than what Calvin Ridley was in. So that's and my I'll put a final thought process on the Green Bay Packers. Still think that defense is going to be trash.
Yeah.
So that's going to help fantasy, especially get them out of like what you said is your major concern of getting them to run the ball too much. And I think he just has to succeed. He just has to. He's been in the perfect situation. Every single quarterback in the league probably would have asked for the same position. If you're like, how would you progress the best professionally, not necessarily make the most money, but progress professionally, you'd say like, oh, I want to play behind an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady for 3 years and then inherit a perennial playoff team as starting quarterback when I'm trying to earn a contract.
Oh yeah, and it's the same thing that Aaron Rodgers had with Favre beforehand. Yep. It's Patrick Mahomes with Alex Smith. Yeah, I mean, that is the dream, and it's proven to work if a team can be patient.
Geno Smith, almost in a like a veteran style way with Russell Wilson. So we've seen the reason I think that's similar, the Geno Smith comparison, is because Geno was a guy that was on the roster, and everyone was like, why aren't you guys going after, because at the time there was these superstar quarterbacks that were available, and they were like, no, we got a guy. We got Geno Smith. He's our guy. Yeah. And everyone was like, all right, dude. All right, Pete Carroll. Like, knock yourself out, 70-year-old man. And, lo and behold, they got a guy. So you got to kind of trust the organization at some point. I don't know if the Packers deserve our trust at this point, to be fair to you, Jacob. Yeah. But I am taking a gamble on the Packers offense with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson every single place I can get him. I love Christian Watson pretty much just as much as I love Romeo Doubs. Of course, you're paying a lot higher price, but you are getting the number one there in Green Bay and Christian Watson. So for that reason, I'm really excited for that team as a whole, fantasy-wise. I don't think they come close to winning the NFC North, which is kind of why I like them even more, because they're going to have to be airing the ball out, doing a lot of passes like that. Okay. Yeah. He played for the Seattle Seahawks. He is probably number 4 or 5 on the depth chart as we sit here currently. He has had 2 incredible preseason games, and the first one outproducing Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson Smith and Jigba edged him out this past time, but that's just because they spent a first-round draft pick on JSN. The cream will rise to the top, and that cream that I am talking about is Jake Bobo. He caught balls at UCLA for DTR. If you go and pull up DTR's highlight reel, pretty much all of those receptions were caught by none other than Jake Bobo. There was a picture of him up here on this. I don't know exactly where it went. Let me pull up a picture of this guy. It is absolutely hilarious what this guy actually looks like. Look at he looks cool like in his uniform and whatever, but like that's his face. You know, that's the guy that I am hitching my wagon on, the deepest, darkest sleeper in the NFL right now. 6'5", 215, hometown in Massachusetts, North Andover. Natalie, a famous Massachusetts native, so maybe we can get a hot take on Jake Bobo. Natalie! We'll see if she came up. Natalie, shout out to Natalie. She had the biggest short on our channel ever recently with her last hot take. So I'm hoping that she comes up and gives me a take on Massachusetts native Jake Bobo, who I wish they would have told high school, Belmont Hill High School. I hope Natalie knows where that is. But here's the video of this guy running like an absolutely sick route. If you granted a white guy, so obvious, but if you were like, hey, this is JSN or this is, DK Metcalf, he is that kind of size of an athlete, and as DK, he just the way he runs his routes. The ball came out when he hit the floor, but it was a catch.
Okay.
It just kind of popped out once he hit the floor. He was called down on the play. Good spot though there, Jacob. Jake Bobo, a guy you need to look on. If you have like a 30-man roster, find a spot to stash this guy, Jake Bobo. He is just, I think, a stud and a guy who can, maybe edge out a room in some NFL receiving room somewhere in the NFL, hopefully for the Seattle Seahawks. Not somebody who will pan out this year, not a guy I'm targeting in redraft whatsoever. Even in best ball, super late in the 18th round, I'd rather take a couple other different guys instead of Bobo just because he's so low on the depth chart. Even if he is better than JSN, which I think is totally possible, I don't think he's going to get the opportunity even if he is better than him. So for that reason, I'm kind of not super excited about him in redraft. But in Dynasty, man, go ahead and take a shot at Jake if you got a hole in your roster. Okay, and I think the most impressive play, my number one play of this second week of the preseason, and a guy I'm super excited for, I think a guy that can slowly, even though he doesn't have the draft capital as his starter that he's playing behind, a guy who will get a lot of touches this season as a breather halfback, and a guy who I think could either win out the position altogether, or when his starter kind of has a contract issue come up, he's like, hey, Mr. Jaylen Warren, you're going in. Jaylen Warren, backup running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another guy I stashed on my Dynasty team right after I got Kendre Miller and Tank Bigsby. I got him back-to-back with somebody we haven't even seen in the preseason because the team likes him so much. In the same division for the Cleveland Browns, Jerome Ford, backup for Nicholas Chubb. If either of these guys has an injury to their starting running back, instant bell cow back. Both can catch passes. Both are just incredible talents if you turn on the film, and just haven't really gotten the opportunity that they need to shine in the NFL yet. And guys that I think are going to be kind of household names within the next couple of years. I think worst case scenario for both of these guys is kind of like an Alexander Madison sort of situation where they kind of inherit that backfield in a couple of years from now. And best case scenario are handcuff backs, God forbid if Nick Chubb or Najee Harris goes down. Obviously, I like Jaylen Warren because I think there is a possibility that he takes a lot of touches, or the bell cow a role eventually from Najee Harris, even without an injury, just the way he's going to produce. Not the case with Jerome Ford, no matter what Nick Chubb is the starter there, because he is a different type of talent than Najee is. But yeah, Jaylen Warren, man, I am really, really excited to have him on this team. And this is just a guy who's on a different level. First quarter, so, playing against the second stringers here. Obviously on a different level than everyone else on the field that he's playing with at the current moment. And a guy I'm just super excited about his future in the NFL and in fantasy football. What do you guys think? How did I do with these performances? Anybody did I snub off the top of your head? Or did I absolutely crush it?
No, I mean, I think you hold JSN down on your list quite a bit, but I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's like you said, you do have to trust that these teams are drafting the right athletes. So a lot of teams right now are in some really interesting positions with not only depth but young depth. So whether or not a lot of these people make the roster somewhere, I mean, injury is always inevitable. When it happens, it happens. I mean, there's way too many chips, way too many things involved in the NFL right now to where, I mean, especially with that level of athleticism, reading the whole field right there.
Yep, great vision. Picked the right hole.
Absolutely great, yeah.
Gave that guy a little jab step to safety, and then had the speed, the straight line speed to outrun him. That's not normal. That's not a normal. That's an athlete that is better than the guys that he's currently playing with. Guys, turn on his highlight film from last year. He's hurdling guys. He looks incredible with the limited touches that he had last year. And if Naj goes down, I think he's the bell cow back, and I don't think they ever really look back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And worst case scenario, guy who's just going to be a solid running back 2 for the Steelers for this season. Granted,
are you betting Tony Pollard on him?
What do you mean?
Like taking over like Tony did with Zeke?
Honestly, I think it could be a similar situation.
I don't see why not. I mean, you have to think about it, especially in terms of the running back market, which is just a huge conversation to be had right now because, these players are doing the most for the teams apart from, the quarterback position, of course. And so a lot of these teams are taking guys on 2-3 year rentals for $8 million or whatever. So no, I could totally see Najee Harris having either an injury or a contract problem, departing from the organization. That seems to be a trend with the Steelers anyways with talent. And then he's going to go ruin his life with Tampa or the Raiders or New England, maybe become a rapper. So honestly, at this point, we don't know. We got to look at this.
That is an excellent point. And shout out to low-key the best head coach in the NFL, Mike Tomlin, who is just inherited so many shitbirds. Mapletron, who came in out of shape reportedly to Chicago. Just Antonio Brown famously. Michigan State running back Le'Veon Bell coming in there. He can definitely turn some rappers into football players. That is for sure, Michael Tomlin. Okay, so we're gonna sign off here. We are gonna take a short break, and we are gonna come back with a fantasy football mock draft. I will say my name is Jamie Jakes. You can follow me at drjamiejakes on Instagram and JAMJKS on Twitter. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you had a good time. Mr. Caleb, what do you got to tell them?
Thank you for watching another episode with us. I look forward to the responsibilities of laptop duties in the future. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and all other social medias at FunnyCBD or on TikTok at ThatFunnyCBD for 0 uploads.
That was like a really soft end to a sentence there.
Yeah.
Mr. Jacob?
You can follow me at Jacob Marshall Comedy on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that fun stuff. I'm on Facebook, but I don't have a Facebook page. So if you want to look me up and friend me, you can. It's just Jacob Marshall. So.
Hell yeah.
I just want friends on Facebook, dude.
I also do. Honestly, my biggest following is on Facebook, and I ignore it. Like, I have, legitimately almost 3,000 followers, and they will engage with all the shit that I post, and I'm just like, Well,
here's your shout out, Facebook. Thank you, Zuck.
Shout out Zuck. I like your Oculus. It's good for certain things. Anyways, if you are watching this on Monday, please subscribe to the channel, and we will post this SuperFlex 6-point passing touchdown, point per first down, 0 point per reception, mock draft between the three of us, and we'll see if we can get one or two of our friends to log on remotely and maybe throw some curveballs into this mock draft.
It's going to take forever if we do that.
Oh, yeah. We are going to take a short break in studio right here, a long break on YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Okay.